So I've never actually done anything on Seth Dillon before, but he's the CEO of the Babylon Bee. And I have not really listened to him speak, but he did have some words to say over on Joe Rogan, and I figured we'd go ahead and take a listen to some of those. This one is from Dark Lantern. I said, my first attempt at anything resembling art, slapped together in about an hour in Windows Paint. A Suris coin meeting the only fate they deserve, being squashed into a souvenir like you would at a tourist shop. One of those penny press machines. Thank you very much for that, Dark Lantern. That's the only thing Suris Crypto deserves. Dark Wolf 036 says, Suris the Mage. Magic is just so civilized. I like the lighting work on this one, and I like the actual like gem on the belt glowing as well. It's cool. I also like how it's the original shirt, but it's using a pendant closer to the one that the VKS model has. The next one we have is from Talia, a colored sketch that is a remake of a piece of fan art I drew literally years ago. Dragon Suris. Well, thank you very much for the fan art submission, all of you. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, if you haven't subscribed already or hit the bell notification icon, please consider doing so. They help out the channel more than you would ever be able to know. The next thing is, if you have not gone over to the Patreon, that is where I do behind-the-scenes stuff. So if you like that kind of stuff, seeing me doing face cam talking about what goes on with the channel, then that's where you figure out all that stuff. Cool. Rockhopper Fluffy Boy, thank you very much for the follow. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at this. We got some choice words about abortion.
You don't have the right to tell my 14-year-old daughter she has to carry her rapist baby. You understand that?
To look that one.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get here. I have a volume control app that I can use to increase the volume here because I can barely hear it.
Woman in the eye.
There we go. Okay, so this is Joe Rogan and Seth Dillon having their conversation.
You don't have the right to tell my 14-year-old daughter she has to carry her rapist baby. You understand that?
To look that woman in the eye who was the born of a rape.
Do you understand that? That's a 14-year-old child. If a 14-year-old child gets raped, you say that they have to carry that baby?
I don't think two wrongs make a right. I don't think
that's
murder.
Not, I don't think murder is.
So yes, he does. So hold on, when somebody holds that position, right? Because what's happening is Joe Rogan is asking him, do you think that my 14-year-old daughter should have to carry her rapist's baby? Do you think that's a thing that she should have to do? And his answer is yes. His answer is yes, but he's gonna find ways to worm his way around that. What he's literally saying is, yes, if your daughter is raped, she should be forced to carry her rapist baby. But he's being a coward about it.
An answer to, I don't think murder fixes a rape.
What if we're talking about...
Nobody... Okay, so... Can I get one thing clarified for, like, pro-life idiots who might be watching right now? And I'm sorry if I've alienated some of you by calling you an idiot, but if you agree with the position that, like, a 14-year-old girl should have to carry her rapist baby, I'm gonna call you what you are, which is an idiot. There's no two ways around it. When I look in the dictionary and I find dipshit in there, I find synonyms that look oddly enough like your first and last name. So let's go ahead and talk about this. If you, for any reason, believe that a child should be forced to carry a baby, you believe that that child is old enough, mature enough to carry another child and raise them, then I don't know where you come to that particular conclusion that that child's entire childhood deserves to be thrown away. Don't we have this entire thing on, like, the conservative side of the conversation about letting kids be kids? How can you let a kid be kid if the kid be a kid if the kid is forced to be pregnant and go through a whole bunch of fucking adult shit? Like, you're not letting kids be kids at that point. You're just being an idiot, and you just don't like women's rights. That's what that ends up coming down to. But let's go ahead and also go over this idea that two wrongs don't make a right. Nobody says two wrongs make a right, but let's talk about the two wrongs don't make a right mentality. Anybody who has that defense for this position, I guarantee you, almost beyond a shadow of a doubt, they believe in capital punishment. They believe in the death penalty, which would be a very weird thing to believe. Now, I don't know what Seth Dillon's position is on the death penalty specifically. This is just a trend that I've noticed a lot. These two wrongs don't make a right, so we should be able to control women's bodies. I mean, that's not what I mean. Two wrongs don't make a right, so we shouldn't kill this innocent baby. Typically will not hold that same position when it comes to capital punishment. If two wrongs don't make a right, then why can we kill a prisoner? Especially given the rate at which we get those convictions wrong anyway. Anything above 1% is fucking alarming. So in Florida, they could decide that a child is not mature enough to abort. Yep, I saw that. Like in Florida, we had a case where a child was deemed not mature enough to make the decision about an abortion. But she was apparently mature enough to be a mom. Said my mom is against the death penalty, but opposes baby because two wrongs don't make a right. Well, then at least there's some consistent there. At least there's something consistent there. But it's not about two wrongs making a right. That's what happens when somebody goes and says, hey, did you know that I have this vague platitude? I have this vague platitude that is my position, and I won't be able to be moved from my vague platitude. I can give you several examples of two wrongs not making a right. If somebody breaks into your house and you kill them in self-defense, why did you kill them? Two wrongs don't make a right. Ignoring the fact that you need to do it for self-defense, which I believe abortion is, it is a form of self-defense against something that you do not want inside you, an invasive thing inside your body. Like, ultimately, if we're talking about the two wrongs don't make a right thing, I don't think that platitude has any weight. I don't care about your position if your position is literally just some vague, like, when you say things like sticks and stones don't break your bones, or two wrongs don't make a right, or any of these things you ripped off of an Aesop's fables that you read when you were a child, I don't think that any of those lessons hold merit when we're talking about, like, long-standing philosophical conversations. I don't. We're talking about a specific situation. So why can we not just agree it's inside you and it's not you? You get the choice on what happens next? Because people are dumb. Soccer says, interesting how many forced birthers would essentially help a rapist keep someone in a basement so as to ensure they give birth. Yep. Yep. All right, let's continue.
An abortion when the fetus, like literally, it's like 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 days. What if she just turned positive just now? Positive for pregnancy.
I just disagree that.
What if it just happened today?
You can like draw a line on when.
You can't.
Like, once
so
life
you
has
can't
begun,
do
I don't
at
think
the
you draw
very
lines.
moment.
I would lay it out like this. I would say.
So at the very moment that she gets pregnant, like literally, she gets impregnated by somebody, she gets raped by someone, and at that exact moment, you're like, well, you got to keep it. You got to keep it. We got to punish you further.
Okay. It is wrong to intentionally kill an innocent human life. Abortion intentionally kills an innocent human life. Therefore, abortion is wrong. And I don't think any of the examples of like, oh well, how developed is it? You know, can it think? Is it conscious? Can it dream? Can it feel pain?
So for you, it's the moment of conception.
I think that if it's a human life, a distinct human life, then I think it's wrong to end its life.
Okay.
And
So here's the thing, though. That syllogism is wonderful in a vacuum. I want to agree with that syllogism. It is wrong to end an innocent human life. I want to agree with that syllogism. The problem is that there are necessary components to it that are missing. How did the human life get there? What state is the human life in? Is the human life, okay, if somebody's a vegetable, they are innocent. They are an innocent human life. Should we unplug them from life support? Why shouldn't we unplug them from life support? They're an innocent human life. It's wrong to end an innocent human life. So why would we do it? Except it's very obvious that you're going to go, well, that situation's different. Au contraire. That situation's different? That's how we're going about this? We're playing the game that way? where the goalpost can move to wherever is like magically convenient for you? No, we're not doing that. If you're gonna do this, we can never end an innocent human life, then there are infinite situations, infinite trolley problems that can be levied at you where you will never be able to make a decision on them. And that's the coward's way out of that. One infinite obsidian, thank you for the follow. But you know, there's infinite numbers of gray areas here. There's infinite monkey wrenches you can throw into this, and people like Seth here are trying to have things one way, a quick and dirty binary, because that quick and dirty binary allows them to be very comfortable. This is the thing with syllogistic thought. Syllogisms work very well in the vacuums they are created in, but the minute you take them outside of those vacuums, then you suddenly have to introduce more premises into the syllogism. Syllogistic thought is very useful. Algorithmic thought is very useful. I engage in it all the time. Constructing a syllogism is a good thing to do. It's a good way to figure out how you come to particular conclusions. However, the thing about trolley problems is they necessarily insert monkey wrenches into syllogistic thought. And you've got to find a way to handle those monkey wrenches that isn't just hiding behind your syllogism all the time. But let's go on.
Do you think that once the conception happens, there's some sort of a miraculous event, like at the very moment, like you could literally get to the point where the sperm cracks the egg? If you could scoop that egg out right there, would that be abortion?
Well, I mean, at some point you're going to have to say there was a magic moment that happened, because you believe that we eventually become valuable humans, right?
Well,
no, we don't have to believe a magic anything fucking happened. What? We don't have to believe a magic anything fucking happens. Once something is birthed out of a fucking vaginal canal, at that point, sure, we can go, yeah, this is a person. It deserves all the rights of the person. But while it is inside the body of someone, there's where we are. So earlier on in the conversation, he says that he doesn't draw an arbitrary line anywhere. And yet now he's telling Joe Rogan, well, you have to draw the line somewhere. Which one is it?
Listen,
where's the moment where you think the magic happened? When we start talking about harmful misinformation and the types of things that are considered, like that I say or that we tweet or the jokes that we make that are considered harmful misinformation, I'm like, well, what about calling that baby a clump of cells? I think that's harmful misinformation, because then
everybody's a clump of cells. You're a clump of cells. We're just talking. The only disagreement we have is on size and value. I'm sorry. That's reality. Like, you as a human being are a clump of cells. That is a factual statement. The only thing we disagree on is how many cells there are and how important they are.
You're encouraging people to kill it like it's nothing when it's actually a human life.
I mean, that's not harmful misinformation. That's just called being pro-choice. Like, that's literally just... There's harmful misinformation, which is something that the Babylon Bee does a lot. Like, a lot of people realize Babylon Bee is a parody site. It's just Christian the Onion. Some people don't realize that, and then Poe's Law kind of kicks in, and now we have an issue there. But that's not the same thing as saying, like, hey, we believe that women should have the right to control their own bodies. Like, I don't think that's harmful misinformation. That's just a brute statement of fact. I thoroughly believe that there would be more pro-choice men in general if we had wombs. And I know that there are pro-life women. I know that there are people that believe that they should be slaves to their biology. And I understand, like, the absolute strangeness of that position. I get it. I have talked with many people who have had those positions. But I think that there's a certain weight when it's your responsibility, when the threat is on you. You as a person might be raped and might have to have consequences in here over and above the mental trauma of the rape itself. The thing about sexual assault is when we're talking about that child, we're not just talking about a child that is birthed because of an assault. Like, that's not just a brute fact that happens. There's a lot of things that come with that as well. How do we handle the rights of the rapist here? They're the father. How do we handle their parental rights? We've had several legal cases in places like Alabama where rapists have actually gotten rights to their own children, which constantly puts the mother in contact with that rapist over and over and over again for, at minimum, 18 years. Justice, I thought that was Louisiana. If it was Louisiana, it's one of them. I know that there was a case in Alabama. If there's a case in Louisiana, too, that just makes it worse. Diamond Flop, thank you for resubscribing. But it just... the fact that we have those situations, you're not just condemning them, you're not just condemning a child to deal with an adult problem like pregnancy, you're also condemning them to see their rapist every week, every month, every whatever the fuck the courts decide. They are forced to see them that often. And even in the cases where they're not, you want this child to grow up in a happy, healthy home, right? Is it going to be a happy, healthy home if every single time that mother looks at the child, they're reminded of their rape? How much resentment do you think actually, like, blisters up as a result of that? Do you think that's a healthy thing at all? Because I don't think so.
It's a developing human life. I think abortion is healthcare the way that rape is lovemaking. If we want to use rape as an example, I think
that is a fucked up thing to say, and here's why. Can you name me a time and place where a rape can be beneficial for someone for their survival? No? Oh. Then it is almost as if it is categorically nowhere near abortion here, because we have several instances where abortion is used to save someone's life. Ectopic pregnancies are a way where abortion is used to save someone's life because they have an almost 100% lethality rate. Infinite scenarios in which the mental or physical health of the potential mother will be at risk where this child is concerned, whether it is because of the child or because of the father or anything. All of those things need to be taken into account, and those are all part of healthcare. Now, if you want to say that mental health does not factor into this, then you have to make an argument that there's something magical about the brain that makes it not part of the human body. But the brain is a part of the human body, so things we do to help the brain are necessarily going to fall into the same categories as any other medical care for another part of the human body. Yeah, that's a yikes on trikes moment. Just put them up for adoption. Ah, yes, let's go ahead and run children through that incredibly abusive agency. Let's go and do that.
I think they're opposites, and it's like these are euphemisms that we use. You know, we use the word healthcare. We're talking about a procedure that
euphemisms. Didn't you just use one of those earlier when you did your whole thing about two wrongs don't make a right? Do you know that that is its own type of euphemism? That's a metaphor. That's a figure of speech, rather. It's a saying. But using this umbrella term for sayings, if you're going to hide behind one of those sayings, two wrongs don't make a right, then don't talk about other sayings like abortion is healthcare. Like, if you're going to hide behind one and then criticize the other one specifically for its euphemistic qualities, then maybe you should start letting the euphemism die and just say what you think, which is women deserve to have their bodies controlled.
That ends an innocent human life, and we're calling it healthcare? That's like calling...
So did you know that unplugging someone from life support is a form of healthcare? Because that decision categorically is a thing that needs to be made by family and healthcare professionals, and it falls in the same categories, it takes place in the same locations. It's categorically a healthcare decision. Yes, it may be uncomfortable to think that things that can end human lives are a part of healthcare, but they very much are.
Rape lovemaking.
And this is why it's such a human issue, because I see what you're saying. Life is valuable. Like, yes, and people have almost were the victims of abortion, and they weren't.
Oh, no, Joe, come on. You were doing so well before. Why are you doing this now? This is the thing I find about Joe Rogan. I find that when Joe Rogan brings people onto his podcast, 90% of what he does is give them a little bit of softball pushback and then agree with them a lot. The Joe Rogan experience is largely a platform where people are platformed to talk. You're there less for Joe Rogan and you're more for the guests half the time. But let's see if it goes anywhere better than that.
Weren't. They went on to become these amazing people, and we would have lost them.
Sometimes it's a failed abortion. Like there's people who've survived like a saline abortion, and they're damaged as a result of it, but they lived, and now they're born. They usually go on, ironically enough, to become pro-life activists.
Oh, well, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild. But it makes sense. I mean, if that's what made you.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you be a pro-life activist?
Probably would be.
Is there any what failed abortion? Failed, not a saline abortion, a failed abortion. I thought it was a failed abortion, not a saline abortion. Is there any data to show that people who are failed abortions more likely become pro-life activists? Hold on. A saline abortion is... Okay, so that is the thing that he said. So I know that there's Gianna Jessen. She's an American anti-abortion activist. She was born during a failed insulation abortion attempt. So, like, that is a thing. I don't know if we have any data to say that more or less of them, though. I don't think there's really any data for that. I could be wrong, but that doesn't feel correct? Nothing like two people who will never have to experience an abortion in their life doing that. I don't know. This is a thing that I don't like about Joe Rogan. I find that he ends up platforming in a very dangerous way because he doesn't give proper pushback or debate. And I know that that's what makes his show so, like, ubiquitous. Because people get to see those conversations happen. He just lets them happen. That's a thing he does. But I don't know. There's something to be said about when your platform gets to a certain size about using it responsibly. And I don't think he does. But you can be very convicted, clear, courageous, and fucking wrong. And that's where I think Seth Dillon is here. Hiding behind the euphemism, hiding behind the figure of speech of two wrongs don't make a right, but ignoring all of the consequences, like from a utilitarian perspective alone, ignoring every single consequence of what happens when you take someone's 14-year-old daughter and tell them you're going to have to carry this to term. Said Rogan's so afraid of losing his own status, he never pushes back. And I'm sure he probably does push back on some people, but not to any major degree. Oh my god. And I'm looking through the responses to this. I know it's hard to be patient, but the pro-life side has such moral clarity that eventually all those blinded by evil will see the light. If we keep making these kinds of arguments, abortion will become a shameful part of the past. Jesus, what kind of Kool-Aid flavored delusion do you have to drink to get to that stage? Rogan's power, his ability to vehemently argue a side, and 2 minutes later vehemently argue the other side, and you never know which side he's on. Yeah, that's his entire shtick. His entire shtick is being inviting for everybody to come on, and therefore platforming some of the best people in the world, and also some of the most dangerous people in the world. So life begins at conception, fertilization, agreed. Therefore, we must criminalize abortion for the conception, fertilization stage. Therefore, establishing justice by affording equal protection under the law. Agree? No? Not really. Dude nailed it. Under pressure with one of the most influential people in the country pressing him. What a stud. He was barely being pressed, though. Like, Joe was giving him an example, and then he pressed against it, and then Joe fucking flipped. I'm sorry, no. The idea that Joe Rogan gave adequate pushback after that, like, he had the right example, and then apparently just popped away from it. Jesus Christ. Said influential doesn't mean good. Trump is influential. Yep. Yep. And just seeing all of the people with crosses in their handles, going like, well, Seth Dillon is 110% correct. I love it when the man on the parody website has definitely been fighting for people's rights, like the stripping away of women's rights. This is a problem with having that conversation about abortion for so long. Like, it existed in the hypothetical for such a long time, and then eventually it just became a reality that women lost the rights to their own bodies in our country. And I know there's going to be people in my comment section who are going to go, actually, the Supreme Court moved it to a case of states' rights. They moved it to a court to states' rights, actually. Yeah, cool. If we did that about slavery, we would have said that America still has slavery, so shut the fuck up. Jesus Christ. So what's the takeaway here? The takeaway is we have the same arguments constantly using Aesop fable level, not even really syllogisms. Two wrongs don't make a right stuff, very quick stuff that works in a vacuum. Things that are short, quippy, and wrong. And we can introduce all kinds of wrinkles into those things to show why they're short, quippy, and wrong. I mean, as an example, if you come in with the conversation, two wrongs don't make a right. Okay, cool. What if we're not trying to be right? What if we're just trying to survive or trying to be marginally more healthy? Where is the acute measurement device for rights and wrongs? If you look in a vacuum, one wrong action, like punching somebody in the face after they've punched you, two wrongs don't make a right. Okay, but at what point should you allow someone to keep punching you in the face? At what point should you allow that kind of abuse to continue for yourself? At what point do you have justifiable self-defense? And then note that all those arguments will work with abortion too. At what point do you allow a foreign occupying item or person in your body for any amount of time? Why should a 14-year-old girl who already had someone's foreign occupation inside their body, why should they allow that to continue and fester? I thought maybe it was made for people with chronic painful conditions that they have to consent to. That's a different conversation I'm not super privy to. But. Imagine if that bloke got a bot flyer parasite in them, he'd virtually be certain to get the parasites taken care of rather than letting them finish their life cycle. Well, of course, because we put a different denotion there where when it's human. We put a very different denotion there where it's human. A wrong in someone else's version of right still to make a right? Yeah, that's the thing. Like, wrongs and rights, these are measurement devices we have for actions, and we use them generally post hoc. You can hold the position that abortion is always wrong and still hold the position that it is necessary. Like, I can hold the position that lethal weaponry is always wrong, but I can accept the fact that in several situations, it is necessary as a form of self-defense. Does an abortion restriction violate the Third Amendment? Does it? I don't think so. No soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house. No, you'd have to argue that babies are soldiers of God or something. Which, I mean, you could make that argument. It would just be really cringe. Does it hold up? That might work. It depends. Yeah, it depends. But, anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm getting tired of discussion about abortion, but I also recognize that I'll never be able to stop having this discussion because there's always going to be people who want to control people's bodies. And that's basically what it is. I know that they think that they're like righteous arbiters of God's will, saving babies from the terrible medical procedure. I understand that. I also understand that the position is largely incorrect, because by that logic, you can't get rid of any foreign invader, and I'm sorry. I refuse to believe that the MAGA side of the conversation would let foreign invaders be a thing in their bodies, homes, or country. Just, yeah. Said abortion is such a tired and boring topic because it feels like you just repeat the same 3 points. You do. The problem is that they keep on saying the same points against you over and over and over again. But with that said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. As always, everybody, this is exhausting, but insert end of video tagline here.